Hey, it's Marie from Marie TV, business and life advice that works. And today we have a very special episode. We are in the West Village with one of my friends, and I want to tell you a little bit about who he is first before the reveal happens. So, my friend has he's a multi-passionate entrepreneur, an incredible business. He writes for the Huffington Post. He's been on Oprah's Life Class, and right now he is on tour with Miss Oprah for Life Class Tour. And I am just in love with his site. I'm in love with what he stands for in the world, and I could not be more honored to introduce you to Mr. Mastin Kipp, founder of thedailylove.com.
Hello, hello.
So we're hanging out here in the West Village, and I'm
Yes.
so pumped because Mastin and I spent some time in LA, which most of you guys know. And when I was there, Mastin and I got together. In fact, where do we have dinner?
Cafe Gratitude.
Which we adored. And we discovered we have lots of friends in common. That's actually how we got together in the first place. And your site, The Daily Love, like, amazing, right?
Thank you. Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of people think it's amazing. I'm still in awe of it myself.
So you didn't you started it. What was great, when I was researching and digging around and finding all kinds of good stuff about Mastin, he's amazing. What I was surprised, and I was actually pleasantly surprised to see that you started your site in 2005.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting, actually, the progression, because I really used Occam's razor, which is like, all things being equal, the simplest solution is usually the correct one. Mm-hmm. And it was an exercise in patience. The site has only been around for a little over a year, but I started out as a newsletter to my friends. It was just like, I sent my friends an email, literally 20 friends. Half of them, the first day I sent them, were like, get me off this thing, I don't want more quotes, right? And so it just started growing, and I would meet people and tell them about the quotes, and you should have to check out the quotes. And there was none of my own writing; it was just sharing other people's quotes. And then
so that's how it started.
That's how it started
in 2005.
Yeah, and then I would share it on Facebook. On MySpace.
Oh my God.
Pre-Facebook.
Yeah.
Remember that website? And then people, like, when I would go, I was like in the hipster world. Like, I kind of was in the like emerging American apparel culture.
Yeah.
And whenever I'd be out at like the Standard or the Roosevelt, all these hipster kids would be like, "Oh man, I love your quotes." You know, like they'd be listening to like MGMT or Block Party or whatever, and like telling, like, I was like the quote guy basically. And I thought that was really annoying at the time, because I really just wanted to fit in to like that community. But I was always, there was always something else going on. And then, it was just something that I did on the side. I was managing bands at the time, and then after that, I started a clothing line. And there was always just something inside me that was like, you must send out quotes every day. You just must, like, to help the world. It was always like, that was sort of how it started. And then one day a friend of mine came to me and said, Mastin, you can make a ton of money online. And I was like, really? Like, I didn't really understand the internet.
Yeah.
I was kind of annoyed by it. Like, I got like dragged on Twitter because it's just like, there's just too much stuff to keep, too much input coming in.
Yeah.
And so it slowly evolved. And then when my friend put that idea in my mind, I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it right, because I'm into brand creation. Because I think when you start with an emotional reason, you can create lots of things around that emotional reason to sell.
Right.
But if you don't capture the emotion, then you're just a commodity. Otherwise, a brand is something that establishes loyalty and speaks to someone in their language and has empathy and understanding for like their plight and their journey. So I thought, I'm just going to start with that. I don't have any products in mind. I don't really know what's going to happen. And instead of calling it Thoughts of the Day, which is what it was called, I was like, okay, well, what's my favorite internet company? At the time, it was Daily Candy.
Yes.
And I was obsessed with Daily Candy, and they had just gotten bought by Comcast for like $125 million.
Yeah, big deal.
And I was like, all right, well, maybe I can do like an inspirational version of that, and I'm going to keep the wheel turning. I'm not going to try to reinvent the wheel. So how about Daily Love? So I went to thedailylove.com. No one owned it. I was shocked, and I bought it.
So
yeah. And then I just, I was like, hey, my thing is now called The Daily Love, and I think I had 270 subscribers.
And was that like your first, like, when people go online, it's so funny because I work with a lot of, obviously, online entrepreneurs who are like, how do I figure out this whole email subscription thing? Like, what were you using, like Constant Contact?
Totally.
Yeah.
I was using Constant Contact up until a month ago.
That's awesome.
I got to like awesome. 75,000 people, and then I started getting all these emails like, I'm not getting my daily love. I'm not getting my daily love.
Yes.
So I had to like chop, I stopped using it. But my thought was in the beginning, I have no idea what I'm going to sell.
Yep.
But as long as I send stuff out that touches people, they're going to remember me. So I'm just going to capture emails.
Yep.
I didn't have a blog. I didn't have content. I didn't have a content strategy. This was before Twitter. This was, right as Facebook was starting to emerge.
Yep.
And I said, I'm just going to have a landing page that's really simple that just says enter your email address with a cute logo, And I'm going to have that cute logo in the newsletter, and just every day with that consistently just send stuff out. And I can remember when I made that switch, people started interacting more. And then I didn't even consider myself to be a writer.
What was the switch?
When I made the switch from Thoughts of the Day to the Daily Love.
And because they feel so different. I mean, if you think about Thoughts for the Day, it feels very in your head.
Yeah.
You know, if you think about the Daily Love, there's something even in my body that just goes like, oh, that sounds awesome.
Yeah,
I want that.
Totally. And so it went from that, and then all of a sudden, I noticed like, wow, like 10 people signed up today. How'd they find out about it? Right. And then wow, like this person signed up, and then my friend unsubscribed, and it like just started drama with some of them, and it was I would go, wow, like I'm up to like 750 people. This might get to 1,000 people.
Right.
And then I got to 1,000, and one of my friends, who's a publicist in this industry, was like, you're gonna be over 10,000 people in no time. And I'm like, yeah, right. And then, Kim Kardashian found out about it. She tweeted about it.
And this was in 2009.
9.
So this is kind of cool. So think about this. So many people start businesses. They start businesses online or something they believe in, and they give up after like 6 friggin' months. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or after a year. And I know for me, my journey, like I've been online for a long time. I've been doing what I'm doing, and it wasn't until honestly the past few years where things just started exponentially growing. But you and I were talking a little bit off camera. It's like most people, they think you're this like overnight success. At least that's the perception. But there's like been all this work happening in the background,
totally.
Right?
If you think about today with like there was an ad that came out where like it says Twitter is faster than an earthquake. Did you see that ad?
No.
It shows this like guy in New York. Remember when there was a DC earthquake?
Yes.
So there's this hipster guy in a Starbucks having a coffee. The coffee's down on the table, and then his iPhone goes off. He looks at it, picks up the coffee. The whole coffee shop shakes. Everyone else is nervous. He's just sitting there reading his thing holding his coffee up so it doesn't spill. It stops. He puts it down, and it says Twitter faster than an earthquake.
Amazing.
Right? I'm like, that's amazing. But here's the thing that people don't understand. Just because we have instant access to answer any question at any time, or we can have infinite variety by going onto Facebook or Twitter or Googling anything, it still takes the same amount of time to establish trust with people.
Yeah.
Which is not something you can automate or something that you can plan for or strategize. It's just something that you have to be. Mm-hmm. And, it's like just because you can be retweeted a million times doesn't mean that if you plant a seed in the ground, it's going to hurry any faster.
Right.
Nature has its own pace.
Yeah. No,
and we've forgotten that.
It's so important because people get so frustrated, and I'm like, great things do take time, and I've always been one. People are like, oh, don't you want to buy more traffic to grow faster? And I've been an organic grower my whole whole business career, and it's really been awesome. So I want to ask you, okay, so Kim Kardashian retweeted or said, hey, you guys should follow Daily Love, and everything just kind of nice
everyone hears that and they go, how lucky was that? But see, I think that was a response to a choice I made. Because
tell me more.
Basically, like a couple months before that, I had a clothing line called Love Yourself with a partner, and I love my partner tremendously, but we started to just kind of go like this.
Yeah.
And it was like right at the peak of our success. We had like clothes on like all these celebrities and photos, and we were in all the top stores and international sales, and we were in like all the shows, mm-hmm. Great showrooms, and then we just kind of fell apart. And the same week, our investors pulled out. My partner and I, it was obvious we weren't going to continue. Mm-hmm. My roommate gave me 3-day notice of 30-day notice. I got gout in my big foot, which is like for like 85-year-old guys who drink beer, cheese, and wine. And like red meat, which I don't really eat that much. I don't drink. I don't eat red meat, so right. I get gout in my big foot. It's the most pain. Like you can't even have a sheet on your foot. It's
it just
so painful.
Sounds really nasty. I don't even want to go there.
And then my lower back went out.
Yeah.
The investors pulled out. The girl and I that I was dating, we were sourcing each other. That split. And so like I don't have a home in 30 days. I can't walk. I can't pick anything up. The company that I put the last 4 years of my life into was basically gone. And like I'm like everything that I had worked for was completely just gone within 1 week. And I was smart enough at that time to realize that this is a divine moment. Like there's no way I could ever have done this.
Yeah.
All at the same time.
Yeah.
And so I chose to interpret it as that, and then I had a choice. I could go back into the music business and go get a job. Or as a joke, my ex-girlfriend's mom had told me, if you ever are in hard times, you can stay in our pool house. And the pool house is literally 8 feet by 8 feet with like a little bathroom and a little closet in it with like it has like a shower. It had a shower, like a bathroom, and then enough room for my bed. So I literally had to I was like, okay, well, no one chooses that. no one in their right mind would go live in an 8x8 room. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go do that and just figure out what's up with this Daily Love thing. Because I had like 1,000 followers and 1,000 emails. I'm like, what if I get to 1,000? If I get to 10,000? If I get to 10,000, I could at least make $2,000 a month off something to live.
Right.
You know, that was my thought, having no idea how. And so I made that choice. I went into that 8x8 room, and a month later, Kim found me and tweeted it out. And I'm convinced that that is a response to me saying yes.
I believe that as well. I believe that 100%.
So people say, how did you get Kim Kardashian, or how did you find Oprah, or how did that happen? Because I said yes.
So you are in the pool house, clearly uncomfortable. Kim has discovered you, and yes, it is in response to you having the faith and the courage to step out into what you believe in. But tell me more about that uncomfortable period, because that's really the place where a lot of people give up.
Yeah. It was a really interesting time because this house is a beautiful house in the hills in Los Angeles. So I was confined to this very small room, yet I would walk outside. I had a huge, beautiful view of the valley and a pool and like a jacuzzi right there. Mm-hmm. But it didn't feel like it was mine, so I could never enjoy it. You know, It wasn't like, oh, I'm chilling. Yeah. It was like, this isn't a reflection of what's possible. Even though I'm in this moment of lack, I was still surrounded by abundance, even though it wasn't my abundance. And it was like the universe's way of saying, don't give up. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And I remember one day I was in this 8x8 room, and I was like talking to the universe. I talk to the universe all the time. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, you created everything. Like, why couldn't you hook me up with like free rent or something at like the Chateau Marmont? You know what I mean? Like, that's possible.
Right.
And the answer I got back was, this room is the size of your faith. And it was just like, wow.
That was like a universal smackdown.
It was. And I remember hearing that, and then I remember the next thing I heard was, but it's enough. And it was just like, I still to this day get chills talking about that. And then slowly, like I think like a week later is when Kim tweeted. And so I looked at my finances, and I was like, okay, I got a little bit of money here, kind of like left over as like remnants from...
So how much? Give us, what's a little bit?
$14,000.
$14,000, okay,
And
good.
usually at this point, I'm accustomed to spending $3,000 to $4,000 a month living in Los Angeles with rent and food and all that kind of stuff, minimum. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, so that could last me, 3 months, 4 months. I'm like, you know what, I'm going to cut this down as much as possible and just make this last. Basically, like, if I can make this last, like, I don't have to go get a job. I can just cut this down. And so literally I didn't have internet. I had an internet company without internet.
Which is amazing. I love it.
Right? So I would literally go down into the neighborhood and borrow Wi-Fi in my car, mm-hmm. like writing my blog with Wi-Fi like out in the street. And I always knew in my mind, like, Starbucks closes at 10. You gotta get there, and when it would open. And I literally did it out of Starbucks and coffee beans, and it was just something that I had to do. And there was a part of me that just knew, you're tweeting to live, you're emailing to live. Like, this is you're building something of value. But it was a tremendous questioning phase.
And what happened? You told me a story about calling home to your mom during this period of time.
Yeah. So, our parents love us, and one of the ways that our parents love us is they want us to have certainty that we're going to be financially taken care of, mm-hmm. especially as a 28-year-old man.
Yep.
Right? Like, that's like not kid. You're not a kid at 28.
You're a man.
Get out,
Yeah.
And so, and my dad, he doesn't still really understand what I do.
Mm-hmm. That's typical, by the way.
Totally.
My parents still, don't quite get it. And they're just like, she's happy and she's making money. It's all good.
Yeah. So, but my mom got it, but it's still, and my mom was been my biggest supporter. She always encouraged me to go out and to live my adventure. Mm-hmm. But when, stuff got real, like, this is like real, like, you're living in your ex-girlfriend's parents' 8x8 pool room house, like, that's something kind of pathetic about that almost. Maybe that's my projection. But,
no. I mean, from the outside looking in, yeah.
That, like, and so I would call home and I'd be like, oh, so today I wrote this and a reader said this, and it was like I would get like one email in the day and it would light up my whole day.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I wish I only got one. But and she would be like, that's great, honey. So like, when are you gonna get a job, or like what are you thinking for money? And it, like, every time she would say that, or my parents would say that, it felt so painful because I'm like, guys, like, that's not where I'm going. I'm going here. Like, I'm not going here, I'm going here. And every time that they would talk about and ask me, like, when are you going to go here? It was just like, it was almost like they were, like, ignoring my heart or my soul.
And what did you say to your mom?
So one day I called home, and it was just so painful to call home and hear this, even though I love them so much. I said, Mom, like, I love you, and what I'm about to say comes out of love for you, for me, and for my calling, okay? I am doing the daily love. I'm called to it. I don't know what is behind door number 2, but I have to find out. If I don't find out, I will die with regret. And I do not want to die with regret. I could die tomorrow, but I want to know I gave it my all. So when I call home and you ask me when I'm going to get a job, the way I feel that right now is you're saying no to my dream and asking me to give up my dream so that I can have financial security. And I'd rather be a beach bum in Venice with my laptop, with my dream, than, be a prisoner to someone wondering what if. That's how much I crave and need my freedom and to express myself. So if you keep asking me when I'm going to get a job, I'm going to stop calling home. Not because I don't love you. I love you tremendously, but because I love myself and my calling more. And I need to do this. And I think at that point it sunk in, and she never asked me ever again.
That is awesome.
And it was one of those things where I just had to stay. It's hard to do that because it's but that's the other thing is that part of being a successful entrepreneur is breaking up with your parents. Yeah. Because they want what they want for you. And
it's also I think too it's also part of just being a successful adult. Totally. Oftentimes, I have made a very conscious choice this point in my life, and I think it's probably going to be true moving forward, that I don't want to have kids. I have a stepson, but I don't want to have kids. And for a while, my mom was like, dude, where's the babies? Where are they coming? And I had to say to my mom, please stop asking. Yeah. If you want another kid, go adopt one.
Yeah, totally.
So, yeah, it's
100%.
It's such a huge lesson, and it's wonderful to hear you express it like that, because it pains so many young people who are trying to start their own thing or living their life in a new and different way, and they don't even have the words, and it was just perfect the way you expressed that.
Thank you. Abraham Maslow said that, to be self-actualized, you have to be independent of the good opinion of other people, and that includes your parents. Yeah. And you have to remember, everyone is projecting onto you their model of the world. And so when you remember that, all of a sudden it's like, my dad or my mom, they're not God. They're just a human being having this experience and projecting onto me what they would want. And I don't think we've reached a phase in our evolution where parents go, well, what does the child's soul want? And am I willing to risk them dying to have that? I think that's not a very normal thought process.
No, it's not. Not yet. Anyway.
So, and, if you take the advice of Steve Jobs, if you live like you're dying, you get to take a lot more risks. And being an entrepreneur is you have to have some sort of disease, crazy disease, to be an entrepreneur in the first place, because, most businesses don't survive the first year, and 94% of businesses fail in the first 10 years. Yep. So we're signing up to fail by nature of what we do. Yep. So you have to be a little crazy.
I love it. So I'm gonna move us ahead in the timeline. So tell me about when Oprah got in touch with you, because I know that's another. It's probably something that's been on most people's vision boards over the past 12 to 15 years. Anytime I meet someone new, they're like, oh, if I could just get on the Oprah. Yeah. So the fact that they reached out to you, tell us about that.
It's interesting because she was on my vision board, but I never watched Oprah. And now hanging out with them, all I hear from people is how much she's on people's vision boards. I'm like, God, how much vision board space does she take up globally? Probably
massive amounts of real estate.
50 million vision boards or more. or more.
At least, totally.
Yeah, think about that. Yeah. So to be one of 50 or 100 million people is pretty cool. But basically, I had a vision board, and I had love on it, I had money on it, I had Hay House on it, I had Huffington Post, and I had Oprah on it. And I made it, but I put it away. Because, and I wrote a blog about this, and people were like, I'm going to make a vision board, because they think the vision board is the answer, because it's so easy to do. But right. what I decided was, I know I resonate at this level. I'm not going to strive after it, I'm just going to be it. Because the whole metaphysical teaching is, you attract what you are, right? So I'm just going to conduct myself as if I'm on that level, not from an ego place, but from a vibrational place of I'm just going to conduct myself like I've made it. I'm going to speak with authority and with certainty. I'm also going to be completely transparent about what I'm going through. And whatever resonates with me on that level will come to me. And the idea came from a book by David Hawkins called Power versus Force.
Love that book.
And I was like, okay, well, if the Beatles catalog resonates high, or certain phrases in the Bible resonate high, I'm going to try my best to try to resonate at that frequency and to see if this woo-woo shit works. Right. Right? So over the course of a 6-month period recently, I got the email from Oprah's people, and Louise Hay came and saw me speak and asked me to speak at an event with Wayne Dyer in New York. Amazing. And I didn't pitch anyone. There was no strategy. And the only thing I can say is that, you know, one day I got an email from the general email box,
Yep.
which I check every day, but scan. And there was someone said something about Oprah. And I thought I didn't know, I was like, whatever. So I clicked on it, and it was like Chicago, Illinois at harpo.com. And I was like, oh my God. I still thought it was a joke or something.
Right.
And they told me that they were starting this thing called Life Class, and they wanted me to be a part of it. And I was just kind of like, oh, that's not going to happen. So I just kind of wrote him back and said, yeah, I'd be happy for it. And I put no energy towards it. And I just kept living my life. And then they called me a week or two later, and they went through this whole interview process, and they said they'd get back to me again. I said, I'm just going to put that away. I'm not even going to give Oprah a dime of attention because I'm focusing on building my business. I'm focusing on my purpose, right? And I have my eyes towards my creator. Because even Oprah is a shiny penny. Distraction. I just want to focus on my purpose, focus on my creator, focus on serving. And whatever stays in this field, whatever comes to me in this field is what's meant to come. I've made it a intention to practice that feminine quality of receptivity in my business. It was an intentional choice. And then they called back and they said, we love you and you're going to be on Life Class asking a question to Oprah and Eckhart Tolle. And that's when I was like, just kidding. Like, are you serious? Just kidding. And, it was an amazing moment. And they interviewed me about the questions I wanted to ask. And it was, and a lot of the questions, it was surprising me that they actually kind of stumped the producers. Like, they were kind of like, never thought about that before. I'm like, you've never thought about that before? Like, you work for Oprah. Like, what are you talking about? You've had everyone on. And so, yeah, it was a really interesting process. But the only thing I can say is that I attracted it. And even when it started to come, I gave it no attention. Because it wasn't about, to me, my goal is not about Oprah. It's not about Louise Hay. It's not about any of those things. They're fun to play with. But for me, I'm about service and surrender and impact. And that is it. And whatever comes as a form of that surrender to my calling and to the will of the universe, I will accept. But I'm not trying to strategize my way into formulating a constructed, the publicist can do that. But not me. And not as like, I'm really trying to be like that spiritual presence, which is very difficult, especially when you don't know where your food's coming from every month.
So, Life Class, Eckhart, Oprah, the dreams come true.
Yeah.
What happens next?
It was funny because Eckhart is, one of the reasons why I got this tattoo on my arm, which just says this too will pass, because it was in his book, New Earth. And it was just like, I just need that right on my arm to remember. So he's been like one of my main teachers. And when I figured out that I was going to be on the show and then asking him a question, asking Oprah a question, it was just like, that was my introduction to both of them. So there's a part of me that goes, just surrender. It's going to be okay. There's another part of me that just really wants to look good. And there was about 3 days of technical prep. And they were like, maybe go to 3 different locations because the internet with Skype and all. I mean, there was this whole thing, and they sent me this Oprah Skype kit and all this. It was like a big deal. So, and the producer's like producing it beforehand, so there's this build up to the moment. And they're like, we can cut you at any time for the next 2 hours, so just be ready. So for 2 hours, I'm like, potentially in front of my computer, just like, cue, just like ready to go. So they cut to me, and I made sure everything was perfect. And Oprah had like said my name, and then Oprah said thedailylove.com, and I was like, in my head, like, oh my God, right? Like, it's actually happening.
Oh my God.
And then I asked my question, and then they cut away from me. In the middle of my question, I was like, what? And basically the microphone had not worked, so there was no volume for my mic. And it was like, part of me was just like so embarrassed because I'm like, oh my goodness. But here's what the redeeming quality was. Oprah asked my question to Eckhart, and Eckhart's response was, never thought about it that way. Which was
and like, do you remember the question?
The question was, because we're talking about ego.
Yeah.
I was like, instead of making the ego the devil that you're supposed to get rid of, can't we just like love the ego as the first step to dissolving it and just recognize that it's here and give it love and like and honor it and like and then like take and not make it wrong. And I'm surprised he never thought about that before, but it's cool that he didn't.
That's awesome.
So and then it was cool, it was like in that moment with all this tension and sweat and stress, I was like, can you practice being love in this moment? Like looking bad in front of 2 people that you really want their approval. And the answer was like, yes. So I got angry for about 30 seconds and then just let it go. And then I was worried, well, maybe that was my one shot. And then I said, even if it's my one shot, it was one shot. And then she said my name, and that's cool. And then they called me an hour later and said, we want you to be back on tomorrow with Yana because we want to actually get a question in, like we care about you. And it was awesome. And then that led to being on tour. So it was, again, it's like the letting go.
Awesome. I love that. Now, the one thing I want to talk about before we wrap up, and there's just so much good stuff, I feel like we could talk for hours. But, one of your favorite quotes, again, while we were talking before the cameras went on, was about and from Amelia Earhart. So you want to tell us that story?
Yeah, so there's the movie Amelia by Amelia Earhart. And at the end of the quote, like she's flying off into her death and this like beautiful sunset or sunrise. And this was right around the time this was the quote that inspired me to have the conversation with my mom. It was, as she's flying off into the sunset, it says, everyone has oceans to fly if they have the heart. Is it reckless? Yes. But what do dreams know of boundaries? And it was just like, I still just get chills like hearing that because like that sums up the whole journey.
Yeah.
Like we all have it. We all can embrace it. And it's completely counterintuitive to everything that we've learned for our survival. And, yes. And, a lot of people will email me and when I write about that and go, well, Mastin, but she died.
Right.
And my response to them has always been, I would rather die living my dream than die a coward. And, because no moment's guaranteed, but for me, if living my dream and wanting to, as Steve Jobs said, like, make a dent in the universe, like it requires you to face your death, metaphorically and literally.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's the number one thing that holds people back is this, like, if you can transcend your fear of death, you can accomplish a lot.
It's awesome. So our Marie TV audience is incredibly interactive and they love to have great discussions. So I think that we should challenge everybody who's watching
Sounds
at
good.
home. What is holding you back? Like, do you have this big dream? If you think about that quote, that beautiful Amelia Earhart quote, what's the dream that you want so bad? And what could possibly be holding you back from it? Do you want to share anything to challenge them to? We want you to put your comments below this video, by the way, because we want to have a discussion about this, because I think it'll actually be really rich. Because I know when people start to think about this, they're like, I've coached many people and they're like, I buried that dream long ago. I didn't think that was possible. I'm like, that's the thing that you need to go for. That's the thing you need to live for. That's the thing that'll bring you to life.
Absolutely. I think that, we talked about this, but it's really just about, if you knew you were already dead and if you knew you had nothing to lose and if you knew anything was possible, what would you do? Let us know down there.
Tell us.
Right down there.
We want to hear it all. Mastin, thank you so much for being with us today.
It's my pleasure.
This is awesome. Yeah, we're going to play a lot more. I know we will. And for you, if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel. And of course, share it with your friends. I think this is one of the most important videos we've ever made. I think it's going to change a lot of lives. And if you want more great tips to just improve your business and your life and have a great time doing it, come to marieforleo.com, sign up for the email newsletter list. And thank you so much. We'll catch you next time. Bye, everybody. Hey, RHH Live is coming up. Are you coming? Go to rhhlive.com for details.
I got gout in my big foot, which is like for like 85-year-old guys who drink beer, cheese, and wine.